Right. So I haven't made a video in a couple days, and I know normally when I don't make a video in a couple days, I don't usually make a big song and dance about it, but I'm not going to today either. But I thought it would be important for me to come out here and make a video about the Stop Killing Games initiative. Basically, I'm not going to go too into the weeds with what it actually is about. There'll be a video in the description from the people who head this whole initiative that will explain what it's about a lot better than I ever could, because I don't know everything about the initiative, but the bulk of what I do know, that things I've got off of people like Penguin Zero Charlie, not directly from videos that they've made, and Jacksepticeye talking about it as well. It sounds like a very positive thing. I know someone in particular has come out and said some quite damaging things towards the Stop Killing Games initiative. But I'm not going to give voices like that time of day. All I'm going to say is that this initiative, Stop Killing Games initiative, which I'm going to talk briefly about, but if you do want a good explanation as to what it's all about, check the links in the description. I'm also going to link the petitions that you can sign, both the EU one for anyone watching this from the EU, and the UK one. Why is there a UK one and an EU one? Mostly you can blame that on Brexit. I'm also not going to get into the weeds on that, because that's not what this video is about. But there are two different petitions, one for the EU and one for the UK. There is no petition for the US, just because, from how I understand it, petitions don't usually do well in the US. These kinds of things aren't usually taken that seriously in the US for whatever reason, but they are taken a lot more seriously in the EU and the UK. When things were brought to court about loot boxes, things were actually done. There were things put in place. The Valve situation was handled really well in Australia, and that ended up becoming a bigger thing around the world. So hopefully, if this initiative is successful in the EU, in the UK, it can spread and be, and more like governments essentially can look at what's happening in the EU, what's happening in the UK, and see things seem to be working over there. They're doing a good thing. We should probably implement the same things, the same regulations around video games and what is going on in the current video game landscape. And about that, the current video game landscape is really weird, because owning a video game, unless you buy a video game physically, you don't own it. And even if you do buy a video game physically, if it's something that's if it's something that is live service, or like a games as a service thing, you have a finite time period with that game. You're essentially paying for a license for that game, and that's wrong. That's kind of illegal. in the broadest context, that is kind of illegal. And what this initiative is trying to do is, from what I understand of it, is when developers decide it's not fruitful for them to continue working on a game, or even when like stores shut down, that people who have paid for product can still have access to that product, and people that whether it's like giving game codes over to fans of the game so they can continue to support it after the development team decides that they can't for whatever reason. Essentially, it's to combat games sunsetting, essentially. And I'm all for this, because if you don't know, way back in day, I used to play quite often Marvel's Avengers, and I used to play quite often Multiverses, and both of these games are now inaccessible, essentially. Marvel's Avengers is getting a bit of a resurgence, but it's not going to get any more content. Servers have been shut down. You can't access a bulk of the fun stuff in that game, whether you think that there's much fun to be had in that game or not to like begin with. Multiverses is the same situation. It's now the online servers are being shut down. It's not going to get any more support, and essentially that game will not be playable in any like fun state ever again, really. This has happened with stuff like Babylon's Fall. This has happened with this is probably going to happen with Marvel Rivals. This is probably going to happen with Disney Speedstorm as well. The games, live service games, and games that are built as a service and primarily like online, they won't get support forever. And the current way that game companies are dealing with this, and a lot of these games are full price. Marvel's Avengers was full price when it came out. Multiverses was free, but there's still a lot of in-app purchases or in-game purchases with that people are going to lose access to when the game shuts down. The same with Avengers. That game has a lot of in-game purchases as well. The same with Destiny 2. Destiny 2 is eventually going to get shut down. I know that there's a big roadmap. That game is going into Era 2, but that game won't last forever. Marathon, when it comes out, will not last forever. This petition, this initiative, the Stop Killing Games initiative, is to protect the longevity of these games. And it even goes down to games that you buy on an online store, essentially not owning those games and essentially just buying a license to play that game until that storefront or until the online capabilities of whatever console you're playing on exist for. I don't know too much about the technical side behind that and the logistics. All I know is that this petition is going to get big movers and shakers and people in legal fields being able to have these discussions. And yes, maybe like people in government will also be the same as me and not know the logistics and know even less about the video game industry than I do. But they're going to have access to be able to talk to and work with, and will hopefully get the insider knowledge and be able to talk to these companies and see how the practices work behind the scenes. Because we know as gamers what we know. We know the tip of the iceberg of stuff that happens behind the scenes with games. How much more can we know when, lawyers get involved, when governments get involved, when they take a peek behind the curtain? I don't know if that stuff is involved in the Stop Killing Games initiative, but it seems to me like that will be a byproduct of what the Stop Killing Games initiative is all about. I know a lot of people that watch my content do also play a lot of live service games, because because I cover a lot of them on here. So if you enjoy stuff like Disney Speedstorm, stuff like, if you're especially if you're a big online gamer, a big PC gamer, I think this is going to be something you want to have your ears and your eyes on massively. So if you can access those petitions, I strongly advise you go watch the video in the description, explaining the initiative in a much better way than me. But if you think you've got the valuable information that you need about the Stop Killing Games initiative, do go ahead and sign whichever of those initiatives or whichever of those petitions is most whichever one of those initiatives is right for you, whether you live in the UK or whether you live in a country in the EU. That's all I really want to talk about today. I'm going to have a video coming out later on, probably after I do my second half of Ironheart wrap-up, because I don't know what the comments on that are going to look like. Really. But I want to kind of address the comments on that last video, and whatever the reaction to my second half video will be, because I don't think it's going to be any more positive. But yeah, I'm gonna do that. But yeah, check out the video in the description. Check out the petitions as well. I implore you to just sign for the petitions. It's completely free, and I personally, I only see this as a net positive for the gaming industry as a whole. Gaming needs to be protected. Video games need to be preserved. Even live service games, if you don't like the way that things are being handled at the moment, this is a path forward for real change, and it's a way that gamers can have their voices heard. And that's a really cringy thing to say, but as a group, we're not really taken very seriously in wider fields. But this is an opportunity to basically say, right, we're not happy with the way things are going at the moment. Games are getting more expensive, and our access to them is getting even more limited, and our time with games is becoming even more finite. Something needs to change, and this, even if you don't think that this is the perfect way to deal with this situation, something needs to change. This can be the first stone to cause the landslide. This can be the first trickle of snow to start the avalanche, kind of thing. So yeah, I definitely recommend having a look at the petitions, having a look at the video in my description as well. I will see you guys in the next one. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully this gave you a little bit of context, a little bit of information. I want to bring people's eyes to this, because I feel like a lot of people in my audience do play a lot of live service games, and probably don't take a look at the wider spectrum of the gaming landscape at the moment. But I do feel like this is something that needs eyes on it, and I know my audience isn't the biggest in the world, but, you know, every little helps, I think. So yeah, and these petitions are very close to getting the amount of signatures that they need. It's also free, so you're not losing out on anything by signing the petitions. It's just, you know, net positive either way. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully this gave you a modicum of the information that you need about this initiative. It's really important to me personally, because I want the gaming industry to change. I think it should change. I think it needs to change. Yeah, mostly for the kinds of games that I enjoy and the kinds of games that I really like and that I've really enjoyed in the past few years, and the kinds of games that I've, you know, devoted a lot of time and a lot of energy into, and the kinds of games that I've, you know, built a community and found friends with as well. So yeah, just something really important to me. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.